almost picture like a conveyor belt, and you've got things going on the conveyor belt and things coming off, and the marketing team stares at the whole conveyor belt, but definitely the inputs. They sit in what's coming in, what's happening on the conveyor belt, and the management team looks at what's going off the conveyor belt into the bucket or the hole or wherever it's going to.
Something that makes a marketer good at what they do might make them poor in other areas. Just like all of us, we all have our strengths and weaknesses, but there can sometimes be this expectation of just all strengths. I just want strengths across the board and everything. And empathy is one of the things that marketers often have and makes them good at marketing, because they can put themselves in the shoes of customers and consumers. But that also might mean if you're a really empathetic person,
when it comes to marketing, it's almost every interaction your product and your company has with the market. So technically, you're responsible for everything. And I think that really frustrates me.
Going viral is a similar mentality. Like this idea you have to do something you don't control.
Yes.
Like you don't control that. You can't make something go viral.
This product is not good. Oh, it does a bit, but they've got a competitor that does it better, and cheaper and faster.
Yeah.
And it's like, and then people go, well, do better marketing. It's like, what do you...
Oh, that'll do it, yeah.
But then paint me a picture of what does that even look like?
Yeah.
What do you mean do better marketing?
Hello, Alex.
Hello, Jack.
How are you doing?
Good, mate.
That's good. Let's talk.
Let's do it. Start talking.
Let's chat. Let's chat about some stuff. Hello, everyone. We are now talking on this episode about expectations of marketing.
Yes.
And marketeurs, and how often they are wild. Often they are crazy.
Yes.
So we're going to break down why that's the case, some things you can do about it if you are someone who hires marketers or works with marketers, and also if you are someone who is a marketer, you probably might enjoy this episode.
Absolutely.
You might feel validated at the end of this episode.
And I think this is, I think this question also comes to that I think Jack and I are a pretty interesting position as consultants, that we work with the executives who probably set these expectations, and we also we work with the marketers themselves. And I think we talk about this a lot, of that there seems to be in almost every company that I've ever worked with, that I've ever heard of, seems to say that there is usually a constant bickering between the leadership teams, the executive teams, and the marketers. And it's the same thing over and over again, right? It's like usually their expectations aren't aligned, and whether that's one party or the other or both, I don't know, it depends. But usually, it's usually like the executives need growth really fast, marketers takes time, brand, all this usual thing, good marketing, build relationships. Both are saying what the other side doesn't want to hear. And I think out of that creates that organic misalignment, which then, title of this episode, turns into unrealistic expectations, which we all know if they're not aligned, everything seems to fall apart.
Yes.
So,
yes.
And
it
I know
happens all the time.
Yes. I was going to say, and you talk to a lot of marketing managers, and I know something that resonates, you were saying, of the getting lumped with all the responsibility, right?
Yeah, and the blame. And the blame.
To the marketers.
Yes. So the market is getting blamed for things that they don't control. So revenue, you don't control that. Quality lead generation, you don't even control that, which I know will be a controversial take for some people. Again, you influence it, you can improve it, you can do all these things, but yeah, that's an outcome. Lead gen is an outcome. Revenue is an outcome.
Yes.
But yeah, look, it often goes to, there's a lot of disagreements on what marketing is. I like the Peter Drucker quote that marketing is not only much broader than selling, it's not a specialized activity at all. It encompasses the entire business. It is the whole business seen from the point of view of its final result, from the customer's point of view. So that's how I think about marketing. That's very inconvenient to a lot of management and executives, and I get that. But it is also reality. Like I'm trying to work backwards from reality. I'm not, and the sooner we just accept that, I think the better. So then you have, again, like the customer will look at the offer and the products and what their friend told them about you, and all these other variables, and the salesperson and the customer support and everything else that actually goes into what they think of your brand. So marketers influence a part of that, but not everything. Yes,
and I think that is the we spoke the other night about the analogy of a quarterback in football, and I mean the same goes for really any sport or any team activity, right? Like You've got on that game where those aren't familiar, like something like the NFL or in these football games, the quarterback is usually called the playmaker, and they coordinate people and make sure it's all done right. But they're still one person. They can't control the game. They can't control what happens. They can't control the points. They can't do everything. But they can put the positions and the people and the team in an opportune area that can succeed. And a good quarterback can take your company and make it a good quarterback can take a team and make it super successful, can put them in the right areas at the right time. And, if you look up Tom Brady and all these people who are just insanely successful at this, and you can influence, like you were saying, and you can put yourself in opportune positions, but you can never control it. It's not, we've said in previous episodes, deterministic versus probabilistic. And like you can try to optimize where you're at. But I think the problem is, though, I always take this position of like almost picture like a conveyor belt. And you've got things going on the conveyor belt and things coming off. And it's just an analogy for like the same as a sales funnel, but it's just a physical one you can picture. And I think you've got the marketing team stares at the whole conveyor belt, but definitely the inputs. They sit in what's coming in, what's happening on the conveyor belt, and the management team looks at what's going off the conveyor belt into the bucket or the hole or wherever it's going to. And by nature, the executive team needs the growth of the stakeholders. They need more less costs. They need more output, more ROI. They're focusing on what's coming out and not realizing it's all the same thing, right? And then the marketers are screaming at them to look at what's going on, and the executive leadership team screaming at them to look at what's coming off. And you're both just pulling against each other. It's the same thing. And whatever comes off this conveyor belt is only because whatever we put on it. It has to be influenced, and along that conveyor belt, in that same analogy, is these things maybe in our control, maybe not. Some things might fall off, some things might roll. Like we don't know. We have to try and optimize that. But yeah, by far, I think control over influence, and I think there's a lot of issues because a lot of management and leadership teams don't really understand marketing. Like they actually don't understand the idea of. They think of advertising. Oh, throw some ads up. We'll get some customers in.
Yes,
which is so far from today's truth, particularly in B2B SaaS that are complex sales and long processes. That you can't. It isn't binary. You can't do something and get something sort of out of it. And I think in the same breath, though, I sort of again empathize because these founders and these leadership teams want the best for the company, but sometimes. They need results, and I've heard marketers in the past go, "Oh, it needs time," and it's been like 2 years, and they're like, "Oh, we need time for the brand." You're like, "Okay, that's all well and good. It's been 2 years.
Yes,
what's happening?
Yes,
nothing's moving.
Yes."
So in those particular, I've been probably side with the leadership team, and I would
too. Yeah,
and you go, "Well, nothing's happening."
And if the marketer was saying nothing the whole time as well, and then all of a sudden, oh, we need more time.
Yes,
I empathize with that. Yeah, if they were screaming about it the whole time, I'm like, no, that's still on leadership because you haven't been listening for 2 years.
Correct. And I think that idea of the marketers should have the insights and knowing they're not going to be perfect. Like if you go to a marketer, for example. You go to a developer, you go, how long will it take me to build this thing? They can give you a rough estimate as best they can, and that's something they have control over.
Yes.
But even when they unpack it, they go, oh, this is bigger than I thought. There's a lot more work to this than I thought. Marketers is that plus more.
Yes.
You've got like, hey, I think this will resonate with our market. It could go viral and go nuts. It could do nothing. I have no idea.
Yes.
But what all this evidence is showing me that this is the right direction, and we should be thinking about this. Because I do empathize. I feel really bad for some of these marketers. They get told like in 3 months when you see 10x growth, and I do a thing on Growth Mentor, this platform that I work with other founders and other marketers, and I would say once a month I get a call like that. That someone goes, I've joined this new company. They got big ambitious targets, which is a red flag, and they go, oh, we need that. They've asked me to get 20 customers a month, and they've got 3, and these and they're stressing. They're very stressed, and I'm like. This is so ridiculous. Like, and then I said to him first, I go, hey mate, just try to relax. You can only do what you can only do. Let's unpack this properly and let's see what we can make out of this. But yeah, you definitely got to take the good with the bad, which I think you have a good. Was it Glenn Maxwell? Your analogy?
Yeah. So I think that something that makes a marketer good at what they do might make them poor in other areas. Just like all of us, we all have our strengths and weaknesses, but there can sometimes be this expectation of just all strengths. I just want strengths across the board and everything. And empathy is one of the things that marketers often have and makes them good at marketing because they can put themselves in the shoes of customers and consumers. But that also might mean if you're a really empathetic person and you are a marketer, marketing marketers tend to have to do a lot of stakeholder communication and management, which can be draining for a marketer. So this discipline does rely heavily on stakeholder engagement and getting people on board and influencing decisions. And because, like a lot of the decisions you're trying to influence, then you're lumped with what comes downstream from that.
Yes. Yep.
So if you can't influence it upstream, you're just going to keep having shit come downstream, and you're trying to polish a turd. So
and, and you can only influence too. Like I think the idea of the sport, like I find funny too, because I think people who don't understand marketing, you can tell very quickly, because they'll say, and I use the analogy of like law or IT, like people who don't get developer work and IT work, they go like, oh, we need a computer engineer who can build us an app. And you're like, oh, do you actually know what you need? Like, is it a native iOS? Is it a mobile app? Is it desktop? Is it what is it built on? How's it built? Does it have an open API? Like, all these things, and if you don't know them, then you're going to find someone, expect them to just do computer stuff. And same as marketing, right? Like doing marketing, and to your analogy, like the definition before, marketing is everything that touches it. Like there was a quote from someone, I'm going to butcher it, but I'll paraphrase it, around in a company, you're either building the product, you're selling it, or you're supporting these two functions. And I think when it comes to marketing, it's almost every interaction your product and your company has with the market. So technically, you're responsible for everything. And I think that really frustrates me.
Yeah.
And I was saying the other day, I every now and again, just to see, I'm always keen to have a pulse of the market to see what jobs are coming out or what people are looking for in product marketers and growth marketers and all these things. And almost month to month, in the last probably 12 months, it's getting more and more ridiculous. These people offering basic salaries, and you read the PD and you're like managing the company, like the go-to-market, the pricing, the whole, the coordinating against the teams, go-to-market campaigns, conversion rates, retention. I'm like, what's everyone else doing? Like, this is every role in the company. And then when you get there, and then of course, when any harebrained idea pops up, they're like, oh, can you do this as well? And I follow, I'm friends with a lot of these people who've gone out on their own, consultants or agencies, whatever they are, and they all say the same thing. They go, I don't take these jobs anymore. Like, they can do it, and they can do it well, but they go, I refuse to take these jobs anymore because it's just ridiculous. I'm putting 150% effort with 30% return. Like, this is not a smart use of my time. And people go, well, I can work half that and get paid twice as much as a consultant, or whatever their services are. So yeah, I think understanding what marketing is, and I do appreciate early stages, like you don't know, like you've got, maybe it's the founder, 2 devs and a support person, and you're like, I need a marketing person. In that case, yeah, okay, fair enough. You're going to have to wear many hats and do many things, but at least have the respect of, they're not going to create viral YouTube channels, 2 podcasts, a blog series, ads, like, and they want like video editing abilities as well.
Graphic design,
graphic design, like everything, right? It's just this. It's 6 careers in one. And I say this very clearly, whinging about this right now, but I'm just saying it because it's making it worse for everyone.
Yes,
it's making these marketing people, like I said, who aren't even bothering anymore. And I keep hearing about, one of the requests I get a lot of, saying, how do I hire sales and marketing people because they struggle, and because your expectations are ridiculous. And you don't even know what you want. So you're hiring someone in to come figure out your business. So I think one of these expectations are, you have a go at it first, and figure out what you do and don't need, or what areas you need, and scope out your PD well. A good employee should be able to like occasionally work outside their sphere, but just going, hey, do marketing for my company, you'll attract bad, because the people who are very open and willing to do it, be careful, because you won't find out for 6 months that it's the wrong fit and they lied. Or there'll be people, you'll just burn them to the ground.
Yes.
And the amount of burnout in marketing right now is growing constantly. Yeah. So anyway, that's enough of me whinging on that side of things. But I know, I think on the positive side, and looking at the benefits of that, and actually how you should approach it. And I keep going back to that sporting analogy, and it's like, people want to hire a player on a team, any sport, doesn't matter, but take rugby league, right? So like the winger scores the try more often than not, or the fullback, and going like, okay, cool, well, we want more tries, hire a better winger, they'll score more tries, we'll win more games, we'll have a chance at a premiership. I see that logic. Anyone who knows anything about sports, it's a terrible logic, because that person can only do what they can only do, and the only reason they can score points is because everyone behind them have done their job. So I think it comes back down to like, if you're doing everything right and you bring the right person at the right time to do the right job, amazing. And knowing where you need the work and where you don't is good. But just hiring people to do marketing and to win more sales and to go viral and for everyone listening, it's going to end bad for everyone. And it's continuing to end bad for everyone.
Yes. And going viral is a similar mentality. Like this idea you have to do something you don't control.
Yes.
Like you don't control that. You can't make something go viral.
Yep.
You can increase your probability, I guess. You can have a crack. You can release content. You can do all this stuff, but you can't make it happen. You can't have that as a KPI. It's just ludicrous.
And there's things like, I think we talk about this too around there's so much of the marketing success is predetermined, in my opinion.
Yes.
Like I've worked with and spoken to a lot of companies that, and worked with their marketing teams who they've said like, this product is not good. It's like, it does a bit, but they've got a competitor that does it better and cheaper and faster.
Yeah.
And it's like, and then people go, well, do better marketing. And it's like, what do you...
Oh, that'll do it, yeah. Yeah.
But then paint me a picture of what does that even look like?
Yeah.
What do you mean do better marketing? Or lie? Like, what do you want me to say? Or what does it look like? Like, most of marketing is essentially just leading with your trump card, showing people why you're amazing and why you should use this and why it's great. And if you don't have that, then there's no marketing is going to save that. And if you can have salespeople to push and build relationships and force it. But like, there's companies I've worked with that do very little marketing, but they've got a great product with very few competitors because they do something very different and they solve a very, very important pain point. And there's a company I'm working with now, and they've got two founders who are they're really good, they're very active, and they're very involved with the space. And they naturally have organic leads purely through referrals and events all the time. They don't have a newsletter, they don't do paid ads, they have a huge following now on LinkedIn, which is organically gets a lot of traction because they talk about things that their market cares about, and they're very authentic. And it's like they're doing a quarter of the work of companies that I've seen who get a tenth of the results. Like because they've just got the right product, the right time, the right pain point, and they focus on what's needed.
But they understand as well, and that's my frustration with the word marketing. And I'm annoyed that we got the verb. Yeah, I'm annoyed we got the verb because I think that sets the expectation that we do, and there's an element of doing, yes, but most of it's understanding. Most of the value is understanding. You want to hear about what the best copywriters in the world do, or the best people on a launch product do? I was talking to my friend about this the other day, who's done a lot of these. If you have 12 weeks. 10 weeks is research. And then from there, a week and a half is getting the headline and the hook and talking to the real pain of what's going on or the problem. And then the last little bit is the whole body of what's
of the content going
of the
out.
Content. Yeah.
Interesting.
So if you can think about that as an analogy though, like if you think 80% understanding, 15% then like really communicating the real problem, and then the 5% is just filling everything else out.
Yes.
Now, of course, these people have the skill to just fill that out quickly or do that well. Not everyone has that. I get that. But think about it in terms of this is what understanding is a great word. We should use more of in this space instead of doing.
Yes. But I think that I think that's probably nailed it, because I think that's the core of the issue, because every other department you get paid to do. You know what I mean? Like if you're a support person or a developer and you go, I'm spending time to understand, you'd be like, no, just build the thing. Yeah. Just hurry up.
Yes.
And if you're an executive who's probably a couple of steps removed, and I'm not having a crack at them, but they see everything from a bird's eye view. And if you're paying these people a lot of money a year to understand something, you'd be like, and to your point then, 10 weeks of just understanding, which I agree with you, totally agree with that. If you're looking at the team just understanding for like 10 weeks, then it goes like, well, what are you doing? How can I measure you? How do I know that this understanding is working? Because if they understand and they do the thing and they release it and it flops, then of course the management team goes, well, we paid you all this money for 10 weeks because you sat there doing nothing. And it's the same as like any sort of form of content, right? It's like with that analogy, I think about writing a book. I can write 10 books for you in a week if you want. They'll be awful. They'll be terrible books and they won't be readable and they'll be crap. But I'll do 10 books if you want 10 books. Or I can spend 6 months or 12 months really refining and researching and writing a really amazing book that reads very well and has got cliffhangers and makes you want to keep reading every page. And I think that's the point of, you've got to give them, particularly like a website, right? You can whip up a website in an hour, really, these days. But you spend a lot of time on it, creating something that the right person is triggered and influenced and enjoys it and sees the right things and feels the right things. Like, that's valuable. But to your point then, I really think that's the major issue, is that it's so hard to measure and visualize what good marketing looks like.
Well, you can't see it. Like, that's the other thing. It's not something you can necessarily see, which is part of the delusion as well. Like, or where you can see it is like, in a couple of years' time, look, what's the P&L look like?
Yeah, that's right.
That's where you see it eventually. But if you look at a billboard, like an ad on a billboard, you can't go, this is good or bad marketing.
Yeah.
Because you don't know what they were trying to do. You don't know what role that had in the whole ecosystem. What is more accurate to say in that case is, I don't enjoy looking at that billboard.
Yes.
Is more what.
But that's interesting, right? Because that's one data point. That's, if you're the buyer, that's interesting. It's like, okay, well, why do you not looking at it? But if you said that, but then if that billboard's targeting young mums, and every young mum loves it, it's like, well, I don't give a crap if you don't like it. Like, it matters about the that's right. So,
and what was its job in the overall communications plan? Like,
was it meant to push people or change your perspective?
So I think we'll finish this on the Glenn Maxwell analogy, just because we brought it up earlier. But we might have to do a part 2 for this one, I think, because we're on a roll. But so marketers are expected to do a lot of stakeholder management and communication, as we said before, because so many things influence the outcome that you tend to be held accountable for. So to get that outcome, you need a lot of people to work with you and to help you. If you're have retail stores, let's say you're a marketer for 30 retail stores, you need the people in those stores to be doing a good job. What are you going to do if they don't? You know, like, so that's the reality. Is you need, in the current climate, you do need a lot of stakeholder engagement. You're expected to listen to everyone's whim of, like, we could try this campaign or try this campaign. Bob from operations and Mary from finance who got all the best ideas for you. But again, like, empathetic marketers, empathy makes them good at marketing, but it can exhaust them with the stakeholder side of things. Now, the analogy of Glenn Maxwell is he's a cricketer. He gets criticised because he goes out for a few runs often. But he also can make 70 runs off 30 balls, which is wild in cricket. If people don't know cricket, it just means you can turn a game on its head, basically. So the good part of Glenn Maxwell is that he can turn a game on its head. The bad part is that sometimes means he goes out fast. Now,
it's high risk, high return.
So if you have someone who's more stable, yes, they'll tend to make more runs on a consistent basis, but they can't turn the game for you. So with marketing, sometimes with marketers, we need to understand that empathy is a big part of this game. It's what makes you good at it, but that means that the rest of the team and the rest of the company needs to understand that, and that, like, the stakeholder side of that is going to be hard for a person who is empathetic. So you don't get the good without the bad. Like, that's the other thing, which happens in other roles too. Like, operations, finances, there's across the board, there's stereotypes.
And they all rely on each other too, particularly if it's a product-based business. Which I'll use a story on the next episode. Because there's a really good one a really good analogy I use with the Chicago Bulls. Oh, cool. And how they do it. So I'm going to leave it there, but on the next one we'll talk about it. All right.
Tune in soon for the Chicago Bulls story.
From two Australians.
Yes. And we will, discuss more about crazy expectations of marketers. Subscribe.
Let's do it.
And listen to what we have to say. Talk soon, Alex.
Thanks, mate.